God bless you all. My name is Roberta Roses Bernal. Today I want to testify about a deep and little understood topic, demons, and how they operate in the spiritual world, and how I came to know the demon that rules the internet and social networks. In their origin, the demonic hierarchy is broad and is divided into different degrees. There are 12 types of main spiritual entities that operate in the darkness, and within them the demons are only a part but not the most powerful. The demons are only one category of this vast spiritual world that goes far beyond what we commonly understand. The 12 hierarchies are not limited to demons, for these spiritual entities operate at different levels of darkness, and demons, although feared, are the most basic. One of the best known groups within these hierarchies are the era spirits, that attack mainly human sexuality. The era are the responsible for what we commonly call incubi and succubi. These spirits act both in the physical and mental realm. The Lord explained it clearly in Matthew 5 verse 29 when he said, "And if your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. If you look at a woman with the intention of lusting after her, you have already sinned in your heart." Why? Because the spirits can see how you look, whether it is an innocent look or a lustful look. They can perceive the colors of your eyes. When you feel attraction, the eyes release 7 colors, and these spirits observe them and act depending on the intention of your look. When you look at someone with desire, the era demon record that lustful look, and during the night they take that image to you in your dreams. It is not a coincidence that many times we dream of people who attract us. It is the result of how we look. As it is said in spiritual terms, our eyes not only see but they communicate something. They emit messages. They are a lamp, a window to our soul, and the spirits know it. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light, but if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? This is the reason why many young people struggle with sexuality problems. The era work intensely in this aspect, sending thoughts and desires that seem harmless but end up by manifesting itself in actions such as masturbation. Although some say that masturbation is not a sin, they are wrong. Behind every act there is a spirit working, influencing the mind and the body. These spirits supervise everything we do. That is why, as Peter mentioned, that we have a cloud of witnesses that watch each one of our movements. They classify our action and records how we look, how we act, and depending on that they intervene in our lives. When a spirit arrow induces you to masturbation, what it is doing is bringing to your mind and your desires the person that attracts you the most. You will not see in your dreams someone you do not like. On the contrary, it will show you the woman that attracts you the most, the one that makes you say, "Wow, what a woman." These images come to you in such a clear and vivid way that your body responds as if you were living that experience physically. Everything begins with the look and eyes of lust. From the first moment you look with desire, the evil spirit incubus and succubus sends an energy through your eyes, activating in you that sensation of attraction and excitement that energy causes. What you already had inside, intensifying those desires and taking them to your dreams. It is in those dreams where something happens that seems real. You meet that person, you hug one another, you have physical contact, and in your mind you believe that it is something that is really happening. However, when you wake up you realize that it was only a dream, but it has left you with after effects. What happens with these spirits called incubi and succubi is that they act by extracting energy from you both spiritually and physically. These spirits feed on your vital energy, weakening your spirit and leaving your soul without strength. When this happens you become more vulnerable, and it is much easier for a woman who looks like the one in your dreams to catch your attention. In real life you find yourself more sexually active and predisposed because the spirit activated your sensual areas. This process is not only physical, it is a spiritual attack that affects your capacity for self-control and discernment. These same spirits that we call demons, like incubi and succubi, need bodies to operate. It was revealed to me who is the boss of these spirits. Some spirits, like those that manifest in rituals, they do not have their own body. That is why they seek to possess people in order to act. When a person says that a spirit has mounted on them, what happens is that this spiritual being without a body uses that person's body to manifest and communicate. What I am telling is not just theory. I have lived these experiences in my own flesh. I have had encounters even with the Master Jesus of Nazareth himself. He has appeared to me and has embraced me. I do not only speak from the acquired knowledge but from direct experience. Again, once while I was in Boston, I had an encounter with a spirit. I had been away from my wife for about 15 days and like any human being my flesh was sensitive. Someone sent me an inappropriate photo. When I looked at it I felt a strong attraction, but I immediately rejected it. I rebuked the enemy and wrote to the person telling him that I was a servant of God, and that I could not accept that. The person apologized and laughed, but I knew immediately that behind that act there was a spirit working. That night before I went to bed I talked to God and I told him that my heart and mind were not in those things, and I asked him to keep my mind from any distortion. Around 3 in the morning a woman appeared to me in a dream, incredibly beautiful, a Hollywood actress, but immediately I knew what was happening. It was not a real woman but a spirit, an incubus that came to attack my consecration. With authority I spoke to her and told her, "You are not a woman, you are a spirit that has come to take away my consecration. I know that I have authority over you because the Lord gave it to me." And when I said that, the face of the woman began to transform. Her true face appeared. It was a face of death, a face of ferocious animals like snakes, lions and cobras. That beauty that she showed me was not real. It was just an illusion created to deceive the souls of people. When I faced that spirit I rebuked her in the name of Jesus. There are those who argue about whether to use Jesus or Yeshua, but I have used both and I can say with certainty that it is the same name, the same power. I have called him in Hebrew as Yeshua and in Spanish as Jesus, and it has always worked for me. I used the name of the Lord him at that moment with authority and the spirit retreated. Suddenly the figure of that sensual woman vanished and in front of me appeared a gigantic being. His voice changed, it became serious and terrifying like in the movies. He asked me, "Do you want to know who I am?" There was no longer any illusion of beauty. Now it was something much more sinister. I answered firmly, "Yes, tell me who you are, manifest yourself." And he answered, "I am the spirit that governs the internet and social networks, and everything that has to do with pornography, illicit sex, chat and sexual phone calls, sex, adultery, fornication and masturbation. My name is Asmodeus." Asmodeus is one of the 12 main ranks of principalities in the spiritual world, and his dominion is over all sexual perversions. His presence was powerful and he clearly identified himself before me as the one in charge of all those things that poison the humanity. It was not a simple apparition, it was a being that controls a vast area of evil in this world. Many people do not understand the magnitude of what is happening in the spiritual world. Their minds are not open to this reality, and out of ignorance they let these spirits operate without resistance. As I spoke to this spirit I could feel how the spiritual understanding opened up for me in a new way. Each word of the spirit was aimed at revealing its control over sexuality and illicit desires. Asmodeus explained that especially after midnight these spirits are activated more intensely from 6 p.m. to midnight. Certain spirits dominate, but from 12 they along with the night terror begin to move with greater force. From midnight to 3 a.m. is their most active time. If you get up at that time and check social media you will notice pornography images, sensual provocative videos on platforms like TikTok, Instagram and others. Those early morning hours are dominated by these spirits, and it is when more people are online checking and consuming that content. The activity on social media increases with people writing and sharing things that they would not do during the day. These spirits are the ones pushing people to these nocturnal behaviors. The spirit told me clearly that he is in charge of social media and that his domain is focused on everything related to sexuality. During those hours of the early morning from midnight to 3 in the morning is the period in which the spirits manifest, the time the incubus and the succubus enter people's dreams. At this time it is have an easier time infiltrating, but if you manage to get up between 3 and 3:46 in the morning you enter a different dimension. Is like you wake up at a special time where you have control over what happens in your dreams. And if something bad tries to enter you can reject it, you can overcome it. Glory to God, because from that moment no meteor can be channeled into your life. However, between 12 and 3 in the morning is when those spirits are working more actively, and it is the time when more destruction occurs. Asmodeus mixed with the nocturnal spirit known as the destructive spirit operates in combination to cause chaos in those hours of the night, not only cause sexual temptations but are also responsible for more serious things such as heart attacks, strokes, cardiac arrests and other diseases of the heart and nervous system. These spirits are the ones that get out of control of the human body, causing diseases such as schizophrenia and other disorders. The reason why they work during the night is because they know that the day brings something. The day has a divine purpose for each one of us, but these spirits try to sabotage it. From the night, Jesus said that every day brings its own worries, and I was not just talking about the worries of the physical world. The day brings blessings but also afflictions, and the dark spirits work so that you do not receive the good that awaits you. That is why many people feel that they start their day on the wrong foot, as if something bad had happened. In reality, what happens is that the damage has already been done during the night while you were sleeping. The day does not come for you, but the day dawns on you. That is why I always ask people how you woke up, because it is not that one wakes up by themselves, but the blessing or the curse of the day comes to us, and that can be influenced by what happens in the spiritual world during the night. These spirits are very subtle and can even affect preachers or religious leaders, causing them to emit messages that do not come from God. These spirits are cunning and know how to operate on people, especially in the area of sexuality. All those who are involved in sexual and inappropriate practice are under the influence of an error spirit, which means bad spirit. This spirit not only affects heterosexual people but also homosexuals, those who are used by the error to intensify these desires. There are those who unknowingly act under their influence, while others do it consciously, knowing well what they are practicing. However, in both cases there is a spirit that works strongly behind these practices. When the Lord spoke to me about my call, it was powerful. Because since I was a child I was persecuted by a spirit that wanted me to work in that area. However, God never allowed me to get involved beyond that. When I visited the witches, they told me, you have a light, something special walk with you. In places where those things were practiced I saw spirits trying to attract me, but I have fought with these spirits. I have seen them, I have heard them, they have spoken to me in all possible ways, and they have even offered me things that many would want, like money, fame, trips abroad. I remember that one of those offers was to travel. There are people who go to sorcerers to make pacts wanting to travel to the United States, Europe or other countries. They offered it to me without me asking. A spirit appeared to me, had a body and I could see it clearly. And he said, I love you and I want to offer something important. I am going to give you the nations. He began to name countries one after another, and he said, I am going to allow you to travel to those places. You are going to meet them, and also you will have many women and everything you want. For a moment I felt excited, and I asked him, and what do I have to do? He answered, I just want you to stop doing one thing. I asked him what it was, and he told me never to preach the gospel. When that spirit told me that I will not preach the gospel, something in me woke up. My response was immediate. If it is so, I say no, I will not accept. God had called me and I was determined to speak of him no matter what the spirit offered. I was not going to give up the gospel. At that moment the spirit changed its attitude as if it had become angry. Just when the vision began to fade, I heard a different powerful voice that told me, Roberto, while she offers you some nations, I offer you the world, so that you preach my word. It was such a strong moment that my eyes filled with tears. I felt a presence so powerful that I could not contain myself. It was incredible how in the midst of all this the spiritual reality manifested itself in such a clear way, how those spirits really exist and seek to divert us from our purpose. I remember another experience a few years before this revelation. A spirit appeared to me, but this was not just any demon, it was something more like a prince, a governor, and he was wrapped in flames. He wore a long robe like that of a priest with a hood that covered part of it. When I saw him he said, I want you to understand something. I stood still listening attentively. Then he said to me, when you go to New York I will be 3 houses near where you will be staying. I was completely stunned. I was not traveling to go anywhere and much less to New York. I barely had a simple job, nothing that would take me on that type of trip. Surprised, I asked him, "Am I going to travel? Are they going to give me the visa?" Just when he was going to answer me, he made a gesture with his hand and said, "Ask the God that you serve." Then he simply disappeared in the flames. About 3 or 5 years passed from that experience until one day I heard the voice of God directly. I was in the church when he spoke to me with clarity. "Roberto, it is time to go to the American consulate to look for the visa." At that time I did not have a job. 3 months had passed since I was fired from a law office. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I asked him, "How am I going to go if I have nothing?" And God answered me, "I am your employer." Trusting in that word, I went to the consulate with barely 14,000 pesos in the bank. When they asked me the usual question about my job, just when I was going to answer, I heard the voice of God again telling me, "Shut up, I will speak for you." It was an impressive experience, one more confirmation that the spiritual world is real and that God has absolute control over everything. My encounters with the spiritual world have been countless. I have seen angels, some in human form and others with wings, contradicting those who say that angels do not have wings. The Bible says it clearly: with 2 wings they cover their body, with 2 they cover their faces, and with 2 they fly. Not everything that is said about them is figurative. There are realities in the spiritual world that are literally true. Not everything in the spiritual world is figurative. Many things are literal. There are times when theophany is used to describe spiritual realities simply because we do not have the necessary understanding to grasp what is happening. There are those who deny the effectiveness of the spiritual world because they cannot see it or touch it, but I have witnessed how real it is. An experience that I will never forget. It was in 2017 while flying from New York to Santo Domingo, passing through the Bermuda Triangle. The plane began to descend rapidly, going down about 4 kilometers in a few minutes. At that moment I thought that everything was over. I closed my eyes and gave myself to God, telling God, "I do not want to go, but if this is my moment, I only ask you to welcome me in your arms." I felt that there was nothing more to do, but at that instant something incredible happened. I opened the eyes of my soul and I found myself outside the plane in the clouds, at the same height as the plane. The first thing I saw was a huge being. The plane seemed small compared to him, but he did not look at me or speak to me. Shortly after, 5 more angels appeared. 2 were placed at the tail of the plane, 2 in the center and 2 in the front. They began to lift the plane with their strength, and at that moment I heard the deep voice of God that echoed throughout the sky telling me, "Roberto, this plane is not going to fall because I am in it." It was such an intense experience that I asked God to lift the plane, and so it was. I saw how the angels lifted it, and little by little the plane stabilized again. That is why I am here today testifying of what I lived. That experience made me understand that we have reduced the spiritual world to something small when in reality it is immensely powerful and real. There are other spirits that do not need to possess anyone because they already have a body of their own. These spirits, although they cannot be seen physically, are capable of communicating directly into people's ears, whispering ideas or words that end up coming out of their mouths. It is common for this to happen with leaders or public figures who sometimes do not realize that the words they are saying do not come from themselves but have been influenced by a spirit that whispered to them what they should say. There are cases in which after speaking, the person cannot even remember why they said certain things.